Hi again, this is Terry from Bonsai Tree, and today I have this Swamp Cypress with me, and I thought I would, I haven't done this before, and I'm quite looking forward to it. I'm quite excited to do it. I want to do a styling of this tree on camera, so we'll obviously forward past some of the more boring bits, but this is a tree that was given to me by a customer to work on. So we need to first start off, when we look at a tree like this, we need to look for its strengths and its weaknesses. And of course, we're going to try and emphasize what its strong points are. And then there's a bunch of other factors, but we'll go through that one by one. When I think of a swamp cypress, I think of a tree that's growing in a very an area with a lot of water. And so I like this. If we look at the nabari, or the roots that we have here, I love this, that there's lots of movement, there's a lot of visible roots. What it suggests to me is possibly a tree that was growing in an area that had a lot of soil, and this soil has been eroded by the water, or perhaps the water has subsided. Maybe it's been a bad rainfall year or something. So there's some story that this area of the tree tells me. So that really appeals to me. And so if we look at a front, we need to find a front that is going to best emphasize the root spread, or the nabari that we have here. It's very much more difficult to change this about a tree. And that's why it's such an important factor when you're deliberating or contemplating where your front is going to be, because we can change branch positions, but this is very much more difficult to change. So I just want to rotate the tree a couple of times for you. Sorry for the foliage that's in the way. Just coincidentally, this is a good time to be working on swamp cypress, as they're going into their dormancy period. So these leaves come off very easily, so we can actually just remove them. But I just want to rotate the tree so that you can see it from all the angles, and also so that we can hopefully have a nice before and after shot that we can refer back to. I mentioned a second ago, it's a good time of the season or the year to be working on these trees. And the reason for that is that sometimes, not all of them, but sometimes they seem to bleed if you do some major cuts in the spring, when it is full of energy and starting to come out with its new growth. So it's a good idea if you do this growth now, then the tree has some time to heal over, and also your sealer to actually harden on the wound, any wounds that you make. Because I've also found that sometimes you might seal a tree, but the bleeding is so profuse that it actually bleeds right through that. So I hope you can see a little bit of the tree. Now if we follow the tree, if we diagnose, this is the front that I assume that my customer has chosen, and I don't have a problem with it. I've looked at this tree a little bit prior to doing this exercise, and I think this is a good front. You can see that at some point in time there would have been a continuation of the trunk at this point, just to contribute to the girth of the tree, and that must have been cut a number of years ago, because the scar has completely healed over. A new branch would have been allowed to develop, which has now become it's been incorporated into the new trunk line. There are a couple of other scars on the tree which tell me that there must have been other branches used as sacrifice branches, also to contribute to the girth of the tree. It's a very slight taper, but it's very nice for this species of tree to see that. So it's very gentle, but it is there. But you do have a very dramatic tapering in this area, so it very quickly goes from thick to thin. So maybe that could do with a little bit of improvement over time. It's got a ginia, that's fine. I wouldn't normally use that on a swamp cypress, but you know, it's there, it's not bothering me, so we'll just leave it. So let me just show you this problem here, or a problem that I've found, and that's these branches that are both vertically on top of one another. So that is a problem in itself, because this branch is going to shade out this branch. So this branch is going to continue to get stronger. This branch is going to get weaker. Ideally, you would like to have your branches that are lower down or lowest down on the tree to be the thickest ones. And that's not following a rule. That's just that the branches lower down in the tree are likely to be the ones that are the oldest. So those are the ones that are going to have been around the longest and therefore have fattened up, had more sap flow through them than branches higher up, which should be younger and therefore thinner. But this problem of them being vertically above one another is certainly an issue that we will need to address. The other area that has a number of problems is this apical area, where we have a proliferation of growth. You've got lots of branches coming out. You've got 3 branches all coming out at the same point. These issues, if left unchecked, are going to create problems. Already in this area, you can see a slight swelling, a knot or a fist. So this is an area that has resulted as these branches were allowed to grow. They've been cut off now, but they were allowed to remain for too long. And then we've still got 1, 2, 3, 4 branches that remain, which is contributing to this. So that is another problem that we will need to address. So just to briefly run through what my intention is, I'm not going to change the front. Maybe the angle might slightly change. And as somebody taught me, that if you can't see where the front is, find the back of the tree, which will be the worst side, and the opposite side should then be the front. Sometimes it works, and it's good advice. So yeah. Anyway, this is the angle that we're going to be working with. I need to address some of these congested areas. So and then also to give a more to give an aged look, I'm going to be looking at bringing some of these branches down. Now with Swamp Cypress, it's pointless if you apply some wire on this and bring it down. When you remove the wire, it's just going to spring. It's just going to bounce up like a spring. So I'm going to have to do a wedge cut in here and maybe 1 or 2 of these. I might remove one of these branches. Probably need to, because they are very close to one another. And then I will wire this up so that I can increase or continue the tree on vertically. This section is a little bit too short. It needs to be, and this is obviously laying at almost horizontal angle. So we need to bring this up so that we can continue the trunk line. Probably look at eliminating this. And these are very strong growing trees. So I have no concerns about this budding back profusely in the growing season. I have a number of customers that have got very old specimens of these, and they're a lot of work. They really do grow a lot. So if you have a swamp cypress, you're really in for it. It's a lot of work. You need to keep your hands on them all the time. They like a lot of fertilizer, like a lot of water. Give them a good soil medium, a good free draining soil mix, and they will really reward you with a lot of growth. I'm done with the tree, with a makeover, instant makeover, as we like to call it. Tree's been wired up and pruned. So I'll just give it a quick turn, maybe 1 or 2 turns around, so that you can see a 360 of it. And we're back to the front again. So obviously you can see that this side of the tree is quite bare. There's nothing happening in this space. I'm very confident, knowing this species quite well, that you will get budding forming adventitiously on the trunk, and that can be developed into a branch. So we can definitely fill this space up. At the moment, very much the weight, the visual mass of the tree is sitting on the left hand side, but that's fine also, because the weight, the movement of the tree is from the right to the left as well. You'll notice that the branches have not been, I haven't put major bends in the branches, because the trunk is fairly straight. So the branches would typically just droop down. And then I'm starting to build some ramification in towards the ends. Again, I would like to encourage some new growth further back along the branch, and that we can get some side branches happening closer to the trunk. So very often this is a great example of the type of material that you could potentially work with, and you know, it would be nice if things were in certain places, but if you don't have it, you need to be thinking ahead of how you can perhaps generate that, or once that is there, how it can be incorporated in the design or the structure of the tree. So I haven't put any major bends into the branches to mirror what the trunk is doing, but you'll find that the secondary branches have got a little bit more movement. And in particular, you'll notice a branch like this, and there's a few others where I have started to build volume in it by overlaying those branches. So it's sometimes you do have a use for branches emerging from the top of your structural branch. You would also have noticed that on a number of the branches, I used a saw to do an undercut, a bit of a wedge cut. The reason for this is that even if you are able to bend these branches down with wire, with the swamp cypress, those branches, once the wire is removed, will just lift back up again. So you need to undercut it, make a wedge, and then it'll heal in that position, and then it won't return to the position it was before. So yeah, I see I think most of these branches, if not all of them, were undercut. I would not suggest, somebody asked me once if it's a good idea to make a series of cuts on the underside of the branch. And that's definitely not a good idea, because you're going to be interrupting the sap flow multiple times, and the sections between will die. So just one undercut is sufficient. That enables you to bring the branch down, and once it's healed, it will remain in that position when the wire is removed. You will have noticed on a design, just something on design, you'll notice that the branches lowest on the trunk have the steepest angle, and then the angle slightly changes as you move up in the tree. That is because obviously these being the oldest branches, they would be the ones that are drooping the most. And all branches want to get their share or get their portion of sunlight. So you need to be aware, and as you can see the way that I've positioned the branches, I've tried to, where possible, bend them if necessary from left to right, just so that you don't have branches overlapping one another too much. And, you know, there's a number of these branches, for instance these two branches here, which are a little bit of a problem. They are very much overlaying one another. I have slightly moved this one over, but ideally I would prefer a branch in a better position. So it might be that over the course of this tree's design, that this branch might be removed and another branch, or maybe this branch, one of these branches might be removed, but we will only remove that once we have another branch that we can actually use to fill that gap. And then lastly, it's a little bit off frame, but the apex of the tree continues up. I haven't pruned off the top. I did lift this branch up quite, it was a branch, I lifted it up. As I mentioned perhaps when we started, that I wanted this line to continue, have this longer before the tree would actually end. So I'm imagining that the final height of this tree would be just about this area here. But I'm going to allow the apex to just run, get fairly long, because these trees are very apically dominant. And as this lengthens, this will gain girth, but it will also help to heal some of the scars and obviously the undercuts as well. So it's a good sort of an escape branch that one can use. It's a great technique for building trees. I'm happy with the result. I hope the customer is happy as well. Of course, I hope you like the design, but please make your comments below, and I'd love to hear what you think. Different parts of the world have different ideas of how to approach the styling of swamp cypress. This tree is somewhat based on a tree that I pass fairly frequently in Stellenbosch. You'll see it's at the corner of the R44 and Dorp Street, I think it is. But there's a huge swamp cypress right next to the road, and its branch structure and the way that it grows, the character is very much like or what I've based the styling of this tree on. So this is not an unnatural styling. I feel it is it's quite true to the form of this species, the way that it grows where I'm from. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you want me to do another one, let me know. Thank you very much.